Kneecap, directed by Rich Heppiat, stars Mo Cara, Mowgli Bap, and DJ Provi. When fate brings Belfast teacher JJ into the orbit of self-confessed low-life scum, Nisha and Liam Og, the needle drops on a hip-hop act like no other. Rapping in their native Irish, they lead a movement to save their mother's tongue. I'll be completely honest, before watching this movie, I had a very limited amount of knowledge about the band Kneecap. I knew their genre of music and their crutch of incorporating the Irish language into their music, and I had never checked out their music myself, as it's not a genre I would always choose to listen to besides very few artists in the genre. However, after seeing the advertisements for the movie, and due to the fact of this being an Irish film, I was very intrigued to check it out. I'll start with the performances, mainly the three performances from the band Kneecap themselves. I thought it was a pretty cool thing that the band decided they wanted to play themselves in the movie rather than getting actors to be in the movie. It really helped the authenticity of the whole thing. Obviously, this film portrays lads as possible exaggerated versions of themselves, but they execute these portrayals very well. For a group of people that hadn't acted in a movie previously before this, I think the three of them did a pretty good job. I loved seeing the chemistry flourish between Nisha and Liam Og. It felt like a realistic portrayal of two lads that have been friends for a long time, along with being a realistic depiction of modern day Irish youths, with all of the drug taking being as accurate as it can be. It was always humorous to see one of them, for a majority of the film, flat out refuse to speak English to certain people out of retaliation, and just seeing all of their collective hatred for the British and their colonization was definitely appreciated to see. They are the main crutch of the film, so it helps that all of their performances were totally engaging from start to finish. Josie Walker plays a detective in this, and she does a really great job at being such a hateable person. Every time she was on screen, she made an effort to make the viewer's blood boil from the way she talks to other characters and her actions throughout. She does a good job at being menacing and a true force for the lads to be dealing with throughout the film. She always had a look about her that she was able to pull off really well, where she simultaneously looked done with life while also being determined to get things done by any means necessary. For the time he was on screen, I thought Michael Fassbender did a pretty good job here too. He essentially plays a man who is extremely anti-British and believes in the power of the language of his country. As for the majority of his performance, he's speaking in Irish. He has some pretty good moments and some good monologues, which he is always great at delivering here. In the third act, he gets pretty fierce and is able to portray that aspect of himself very well. Obviously, a big thing about this film is the music, mainly being the music of Kneecap, and naturally the soundtrack mainly does consist of Kneecap's songs. From hearing these songs for the first time, I honestly think they're all very good. Lots of pretty hard-hitting floor fillers that suited a lot of the scenes they were in. It was cool seeing the creation and recording process of some of these songs being shown off in the film, and seeing them being performed matched a great deal of both being funny and thrilling to watch. Outside of this, the score of the film itself was really good too, and a lot of these tracks fit the scenes they're in as well. The humor in this film works really well too. I don't know how well it will translate overseas if the film gets to be screened in other countries, but the humor here worked so much. Some of the humor came from the scenarios where the lads would be on drugs as filmmakers gets creative with what they see during their trips. Outside of that, there's a lot of other well-written jokes too. One scene in particular sees one of the Kneecap lads being chased by a bunch of Orange Order members. For those of you that don't know, the Orange Order is a conservative British unionist organisation, which basically means they're scum. However, this scene was placed and written to be pretty humorous. There were other points in the film too that had great moments of comedy. A lot of the comedy comes from how surreal they decide to take the story in certain places. The film depicts itself to retell the origins of Kneecap's formation in an exaggerated way, and I appreciated this aspect as it felt like the Weird Al biopic, even though that movie took the concept of exaggerating things up to 100 for the sake of satire. This film looks beautiful too. The cinematography was really great to look at. I want to shout out Ryan Kernahan, who did a great job with the cinematography here. There's lots of really great looking shots and moments that really stood out to me. Watching it, I honestly thought it was impressive this much detail was put into making the film look so good. I wouldn't say this film glorifies drugs or drug use, but there's many moments where the cinematography somehow shoots drug taking to look almost beautiful at times. This may seem like a pretty small thing, but one moment in particular that really struck out to me me was a scene where Michael Fassbender's character is trying to talk to his son, who is in the band Kneecap, and the two of them basically attempt to have a conversation with each other with no words. And it's such a simple little thing that's done in the movie, but it's essential back and forth trucking shot between the two characters. And while it's a very quiet moment in the movie full of really loud music and loud bombastic moments, I thought it was one that just struck out to be a very poignant moment in the movie. The colors in this were really striking too. They were always very vibrant and almost seemed to lash off the screen, bursting with life. I honestly feel safe calling it one of the most visually appealing looking movies of the year. Honestly, I really like this film. I'm really happy to hear that the filmmakers decided to submit this to the Oscars as the film to represent Ireland in the Best International Film category. Whether it'll get selected or not, who knows, but I really hope it does end up getting picked because I think it absolutely deserves it. It does so many things and is honestly one of the more better and unique biopics I've seen in a long time. I'm giving Kneecap 5 stars. It's a funny, thrilling, politically charged romp that will have you moving in your seat and leaving the theatre ready to boot the Brits out of the country. The performances from everyone involved were great from start to finish, and I was thoroughly entertained for every second of this gem of a film. It made me proud as an Irish person and aspiring filmmaker to see such a fantastic film come out of the country. I encourage anyone, whether they're a fan of the group's music or not, to seek out this film in the theatre, as it deserves only to be seen on the big screen.